Jen.
Hi, Em.
I like that I looked at my paper as if that was on the script.
Can you imagine if it said, hi, Jen. Hi, Em. You forgot my name.
Emily says, hi, Jen.
It's been a long week.
I know. We're back at Westchester Studios, though. We're thrilled to be
We
here.
love it here.
We're very happy.
It's so comforting.
What a delightful time.
Delightful time. It's felt like a delightful time, hasn't it?
You know, like in The Office when they like look at the camera?
Yeah, yeah.
Can I do that right now?
Yes. Yeah, can we do like an Office episode where someone will...
What will be the episode? Where's
Someone
that
will
gonna go?
record me like on the side. Like, I'll do like an interview. I don't know.
Oh, yeah, like Real Housewives style. We should. It'd be like Jen thought. She was talking about Bowen's family therapy.
Emily forgot my name.
No, these are fine. You know, here's what I'll say. Pregnancy towards the end, not ideal.
Right.
My back hurts. I'm cranky. You know, you have to just go to the doctors all the time. And they say a lot of things to you, like, you know, like your iron's low. And we have to induce you early.
It's
and
almost
you're
like
old.
It's almost like you turn into the baby, right? Like you're
Yes.
going to the doctor a lot.
It is. There's also this part of like when you're over 35 having a baby, you're like the geriatric pregnancy.
That's wild.
They're like, oh, well, you know, because you're geriatric. I'm fucking 35.
I mean, you are a geriatric.
I mean, I feel it. I just don't know why they need to keep bringing it up.
It's wild. It's wild.
It's rude.
How much your body starts to hurt just in life. I couldn't sleep the other night. I mean, for a multitude of reasons, but one of them was that my hips hurt. I had to like put a pillow between my legs because my hips hurt. You know,
It is really sad.
it's sad. She's crying already. Crying from laughter already.
Okay, conflict avoiders. We got to talk about conflict avoidance. You're a conflict avoider.
No, I'm not. I was avoiding conflict.
That was good.
Thank you.
Yeah, that was quick. That was witty.
I'm a witty lady.
Yeah.
Yeah. Agreed.
Do you think I'm a conflict avoider?
No. A little bit. Not as much as me.
In certain scenarios.
Yeah. I would say no. No. I don't think you're a conflict avoider. Have you always not been a conflict avoider?
No.
Have you? Double negative.
Here's the issue. I'm not a conflict avoider, but that being said, that doesn't mean I've had healthy conflict skills.
Right.
Because the fact that I don't have conflict avoidance, it makes me quick to be like, here's the fucking problem.
Right.
And that also does not lead for, you know, positive, kind conflict issue resolution skills.
Right.
Right?
That should be in our episode of like reactionary.
Yes. Yeah. So
So there's a different, okay, so we're talking about two ends of the spectrum, right?
We didn't do an intro question, just, you know, but that doesn't seem to matter.
Oh.
Although it's kind of funny.
I don't want to miss it. We'll get back into it.
If someone narrated your life, who would you want as the voice?
Probably like James Earl Jones. Of course. Like, is that even a question? No,
Wait.
it doesn't match, but like.
Oh, I guess it doesn't matter because they're narrating your life. They're not like doing
Exactly.
your voice.
It's almost like if
they're like Morgan Freeman. Yeah, I didn't think about that.
Like if you were in like a nature documentary.
Yeah, okay, I wasn't thinking about that. I was thinking like if they were playing me, whose voice would it be? And I'd be like, whoever has the worst Philadelphia accent.
Just so yourself.
Yeah.
So but someone disagree. Some love our voices.
Yeah, mine would be Morgan Freeman then. If there's just gonna be like a voice in the head.
Yeah, James Earl Jones.
Great, perfect. Okay, so let's talk more about conflict avoiding.
So we were talking about the two separate ends of the spectrum, being completely avoidant of conflict and then being like reactionary and not, you know, being argumentative in a way. So I think sometimes when people think about, okay, I'm going to battle my conflict avoidance, that like that's the goal, when that is not the goal. If you're someone who's conflict avoidant, I think the really positive thing is that there's a lot of space, right? You create a lot of space between when something happens and then the possibility of bringing it back up, right? As opposed to what Emily's saying, where it's just like a quick like reaction. So if you're a conflict avoidant, at least you have the space to be able to think about, well, what do I want to say? You know, like, how do I want to approach this? And then you conflict avoiders, you're going to have to actually approach it, because sometimes you can get stuck in the how do I want to approach it and not actually.
That just leads to more avoidance.
Leads to more avoidance, exactly. So like you can ruminate, you can think about it, and then just be like, I'm just going to shove this down. Why should I deal with this?
Yeah, you're like, oh, it's already over. I don't care about it that much anymore.
Right.
Because you like willed yourself to not caring anymore.
Right. And listen, sometimes that's okay if you've actually gotten to the place where you're like, okay, this is no longer affecting me, right? Like this isn't something that I need some sort of resolution with. Like I've kind of worked this. This was maybe my own stuff that has come up for me. But if it's something that's sitting with you, if it's something you're going to hold resentment with, if you don't bring it up to your partner, to your friend, to a family member, then that's something to consider. If you recognize that you're someone who doesn't approach things and you hold them in and they sit with you and they build resentment, and then that as that resentment builds, it creates space in your relationship where you're no longer connected to people, like that's where you want to look at your conflict avoidance. That's where you want to tackle it.
Yeah. So somebody said, does dodging conflict always cause more problems? And here's how I think about it. It might not necessarily cause more problems in your external relationships, right? Like if you come from a family where everything pushes things under the rugs, then like it might not cause like external problems, right? Because like this is what we do. It's how our family functions. It is what it is, right? It could potentially cause more problems within the relationship with yourself, of how you start to feel around resentment, anger, complex emotions. And so my concern is that like, I think we're so often concerned about external relationships, which obviously are very important. But I also think the relationship with yourself and saying like, hey, like I really feel like I was true to myself and in alignment. My insides match my outsides, right? The congruity.
Yeah. So, you're like almost abandoning yourself when you're not honoring, like, this is how I feel. You're basically saying by never bringing something up that bothers you or shoving it down or avoiding conflict, that your feelings do not matter. And if you're someone who typically does that, then my sense is like maybe you grew up in an environment where people often told you that your feelings didn't matter, or they often told you that your feelings are a burden. And so you have learned as an adult to invalidate your own feelings. And because of that, you maybe are doing that internally and you continue to do that in your relationships. And so my question for you would be, at what cost? You know, like what does that do
at what cost?
to you? Yeah, like what will that do if you continue to tell yourself that your feelings don't matter and they're not worth bringing up? How does that end up affecting you? How does that end up affecting your self-esteem, your self-worth? Because you might be recreating a pattern that you grew up with where someone says your feelings don't matter in your adult life.
Yeah. I really like using the phrase though, at what cost, to determine next steps, right? Yes. Like, this was something we talked about before, like when I was deciding about like doing more rounds of IVF or what, it like something you said to me, we went on a very nice walk one day. I was really hitting a bad, I was really hitting a down point. So I was in it.
Yep.
And to think through of like, okay, at what cost?
Yeah.
Right? What the cost is going to be if this doesn't work again, if I'm feeling more like a failure, if I'm having more body shame, right? Like, and then what the cost if it does.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I think so often our fear when we confront people is like, well, what if this goes horribly? Okay, well, what if it goes awesome too? If you are going to give yourself the downside, you better give yourself the upside as well.
Yeah.
And then to say, at what cost? What could happen? And what is the risk to me?
Yeah.
That's what you're saying when we talk about at what cost.
So when I am conflict avoidant, when I have been conflict avoidant in my life, the cost to me has always been anxiety, just like more anxiety. Like I just feel it in my body. I'm walking around with it. I'm not present. Like that is the cost to me when I don't approach things, is it just sits with me. It doesn't go away. And if you're someone who's conflict avoidant, you recognize you walk around with a ton of anxiety, I would ask yourself, like, what am I shoving down? Like, what feelings am I avoiding? Because our anxiety sometimes is like the top level of things. It's a way to kind of avoid or keep us separate from our emotions. And if you continue to avoid your emotions and you continue to invalidate yourself, like it can really build up as anxiety, as depression. So that's personally for me how it affects me. So if I would, for anyone who's listening, if you're conflict avoidant, to ask yourself, like, what is the cost to you? How does it end up affecting you? Mm-hmm. Because to really get to know what the cost is, then it allows you to take more action. So at least you're not avoiding what the cost of this is.
Yeah. So somebody said how to choose the harder path of being honest with your feelings when there is a passive way out. I know. So George, you're like, well, I could just not.
I could just not do this.
I love that. That's like how I feel about like my laundry.
Yeah, I could just not fold it.
I could just not fucking do this, right? Like I'm like an adult. I could just choose to wear wrinkly clothes. Like right. I love that idea in life. I like that I have that choice. Except for avoiding the short-term discomfort of honesty often leads to that long-term distress, right?
Yes.
So I can make the easier decision to not do my laundry, but I'm going to have to be okay with walking around stinking.
And are you okay with that?
I'm not. I'm actually not. I just smell
What's the cost to yourself?
I better do the laundry. For me, it's a pain in the fucking ass.
Yeah.
So then you say, how do I take care of myself during it, right? Yeah. So like, am I going to watch a show during it? Am I going to listen to music? Am I going to give myself a reward afterwards, right? And I think the same thing with having a confrontation, right? So like, how do I take care of myself before, during, and after?
Yes. We've gotten better at this. I would say both of us were avoidant in business.
Well, that's what I said when you were like, oh, you're not conflict avoidant. I was like, well, in certain stuff.
Yeah.
When it came to first running the business.
So avoidant. But we learned
This is the office.
But we learned very quickly what's the cost, right? Yeah. Like when you're in business, you have to deal with things. You have to approach things. Yeah. And sometimes we didn't know how for a while, and we've really learned over the years. So I think that's another thing, right? If you tend to be conflict avoidant, sometimes you don't know how to approach things.
Yeah.
And I think to just give yourself grace to recognize, like, sometimes it just takes practice. It takes practice figuring out, like, what am I going to say? How do I want to approach this? How do I create the space to hold myself accountable to approach this?
Well, I think also if you think about like lots of folks that are conflict avoidant with the person they're having a conflict with, but will then talk about it to everyone else.
Yeah.
So another issue that can happen is the triangulation that starts to occur, right? So let's say I'm having a conflict with Jen, and I don't really want to talk to Jen about it, so I just go talk to Nikki about it. Well, not only have I might feel a little bit better myself, but I've now made Nikki uncomfortable. Nikki's now put in a situation, does she tell Jen, what does this mean for next time? Nikki will then start to trust me less, actually, because there is not enough safety because, oh, well, she just talked shit on Jen to me, so why would I trust her, right? So when we triangulate in relationships to avoid discomfort as well, there is a serious repercussion that can occur. And that might mean it's way fucking worse, right? If Jen finds out that I've been talking smack on her to Nikki for 3 months before coming to her, she's probably going to be more pissed off about that than if I had just addressed it with her directly and handled it.
Definitely. And you create more trusting relationships when the other person knows when you're upset. You know what I mean? Like you want to be connected to someone. You don't have to guess what they're feeling. Right? You don't have to say like, oh, I wonder if they're upset with me. Like if you know and you can trust that in your relationship, that person's going to come to me if they're really upset about something. They're not going to hold it against me. They're not going to build resentment. It builds trust within the relationship when you're not conflict avoidant, when you go to the person and say, hey, I know you didn't mean this, but like you said this and it like really upset me. Can we talk about it? Whatever it is. And once you get through that, like you build trust in your relationship. So I think that so often we think, I'm going to avoid this conflict so I don't hurt the other person, but you might be doing more damage in your relationship by not speaking up and by not saying this is how I was feeling. Then the other person can be aware. Yeah. Right? And if you bring something up to someone and they completely disregard you and they say, I don't give a shit how you're feeling. Have to reevaluate that relationship.
Yeah, right? And like there's going to be some relationships where it's like that, like there might be some times where you So you have like an issue at work and your boss is like, hey, this isn't like an appropriate thing for work. We're not going to talk about this at work, right? Like someone's allowed to set that boundary, right? Yeah. Like you go to someone in the middle of their kid's birthday party and try to talk about an issue and they're like, I'm not going to talk with you right now. Like they're not an asshole. You're doing it at an inappropriate time.
Right.
So the things we want to think about, if conflict is difficult for you, how do you prep to take care of yourself better? And that's what I mean about thinking through the before, during, and after, right? Is the setting appropriate? Do I have the emotional bandwidth for this? Does the other person possibly have the emotional bandwidth for this? Am I able to go into this with a clear head? Am I able to take care of myself and stay grounded during it? And then afterwards, if it's really anxiety producing for me to do this, what do I take care of my nervous system to do moving forward?
Yes. Someone said, how to address fear of conflict with a person who is aggressive in conflict. So first I want to say, if you're in an unsafe relationship.
Then if there is abuse in your relationship, if there's an unsafe relationship, there is not a safe way for this to do.
No.
If someone is abusive or incredibly dysfunctional in their communication style, we cannot teach you a way to make them different. And so there is not a good way. And what people will often do is we'll say like, oh, well, I have to approach him at a specific time, or like he's great besides this, or right, like, and so it doesn't matter what you do. If somebody is aggressive or abusive in any way or harmful in some way, there's no point.
Your safety is the most important thing, right? Being conflict avoidant, like, does not matter at that point.
If it's a safe situation,
right. And so like, right, this only matters when you're bringing up conflict in a safe relationship, right? Sometimes, right, you might have someone who doesn't have the best reaction, but if it's unsafe and if it's aggressive, that is not what we're talking about at all.
Yeah.
And so if you're bringing it up and someone's really reactive to you, right, you get to set a boundary of like, hey, like, I understand this isn't the right time, right? Like maybe we should talk about this at a time in which like we're both in a place for this. Mm-hmm. So, you know, like there might be a time and place when there's less stress in the relationship, but if there is some sort of like aggression or there's no safety in the relationship, that's not what we're talking about.
Yeah. Okay, so if there is safety, but the person just has a very different communication style than you or conflict style, I like the idea of considering, I think that generationally there's like this thing about like, oh, you should only have conversations in person. I don't agree with that. If it is easier for you to have a conversation over text or over email or writing a letter, and that's what works and that's the safest thing for you in your relationship, then like fucking do it. That's great, right? Like, why are you smiling?
Because I'm thinking.
Why are you looking at me like, are you about to be like, you're wrong?
No, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry that's what you thought my face was. My face was, I was thinking about the episode of Sex and the City.
The Post-it?
With the Post-it where he breaks up with her on a Post-it. Because I was going to say that's the one thing where I'm just like, okay, if you're going to break up with someone, like.
Don't do it on a Post-it.
Don't do it on a Post-it note. Where she like brings the Post-it.
But do you think it's, okay, here's a question though. Yeah. Is it appropriate to break up with someone through a letter or a text message?
I think it's more respectful to break up with them. So here's what I would say. How safe is your relationship? If you're in an abusive relationship, get the fuck out of there. I don't care how you do it.
But also not just that. Okay, so when we think of abusive, when we say the word abusive, I think people typically think of like physically abusive.
Oh, yeah.
But something can also be highly manipulative and it's not safe, right? So if you're with someone who you've tried to break up with before and they start, and this is emotional abuse, but I'm going to call it manipulation. I think people can understand that phrase sometimes better. And they're threatening to hurt themselves. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden, you went in to break up with them for 15 minutes and you've been with this person for 5 hours because you're scared they're going to hurt themselves. Do you really recommend always doing it in person then?
No.
Lack of safety.
Lack of safety.
So when we say lack of safety, we are not just saying physical abuse. I want to be very clear that there's many different signs of this.
100%. So, but if there is generally safety in your relationship.
You think you should always do it in person?
I don't think you should always do it. I just think it's, like if you want to be respectful of another person.
Yeah.
Do you disagree? You think you should just shoot him a text to put it on a Post-it?
Just like shoot him a text and be like, nah.
I don't know. Oh, but I mean, I'm good. I'm good, period. Like, what's the worst thing you could say?
I don't know. Like,
I get it. Like, obviously it's hard to break up with someone.
Okay, here's what I would say.
Yeah.
If the option is breaking up over text or ghosting, I think you should do it over text.
Right. That's yes.
We're gonna rank everything.
Yes. In person. Call them.
In person.
Number one.
Call them.
In person and say, here's some therapists if you need some support.
And write a Dear John letter.
Dear John.
Yes. Text, email.
Email before text.
No, text and then email.
Text and then email.
Yeah. And then ghosting.
Post it.
Ghosting.
Courier pigeon.
Carrier pigeon. Smoke signal.
Smoke signal. And there's more, I feel like. Drones can like write a message in the sky.
Okay, let me
drone show.
If my husband initiated divorce through a drone show, I don't know if I'd be that mad.
I feel like also just knowing Aaron, I feel like that is like if you guys were to get divorced, that is the way he would do it. Don't you think?
No, he would like somehow train. My husband's really into trains. Would like somehow train the train to have the smoke pipe thing come out with saying, wow. Oh my God, fun facts about Jen. She blows the best smoke rings I've ever seen.
Thank you so much. I don't think we've done that in a while. Yeah.
You are weirdly talented at O's.
Yeah, I am.
I don't know what that says about the person.
I'm not sure.
But, suck good dick.
But but I can only do O's, so I wouldn't be able to break up with someone. It would just say, ooh.
Ooh, no.
Ooh, got nothing else.
Okay, wait. So here's what I say. Okay, so whatever. That aside, let's say I wrote out a script. Do you want to hear the script I think you could say to someone, right? If someone, you worry about someone escalating, if someone who is more aggressive in conflict, you can bring that up to the room, right? So the example I was thinking about was like, I really want to talk to you about something, but I'm conflict avoidant and you aren't. And it makes me nervous to address this, but I love you and I want to be more honest in our relationship than scared. So I'm going for it. Oof. So I think bring it into the room of like, hey, this is hard for me. It allows someone to just be more disarmed.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're talking about the process that's about to happen.
Your favorite thing.
My favorite thing. So meta.
Yeah. So yeah.
Love a meta experience. Anyway, someone said, I learned that I'm avoidant. Will I always be this way? Are people stuck in their labels? Let us first say, no one is stuck. Avoidance is a learned pattern, and it's not a personality trait. If everyone was stuck in their patterns, we wouldn't be doing this.
What? Why? Oh,
what would be the point?
Oh, the podcast we wouldn't be doing.
Exactly. or
not even life.
Jesus, got dark real quick. She got real dark life.
Oh, the podcast we wouldn't be doing.
Yeah, what would be the point if you can't change
the ad space?
Know yourself, grow yourself. You know, like we say. Yes, you can grow yourself. It's not a personality trait.
Okay, can I ask you something though?
Of course you can.
Do you think that an introvert can change to an extrovert?
I think that's a personality trait.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
I don't think you could change everything. Right? Like, I'm not all of a sudden going to be an extrovert.
Yeah, like at no point, like, I'm thinking about, like, next week I have to MC my daughter's school auction. Like, at no point.
Okay, wait. Also, let me say, she said, have to. Like, someone has forced her to MC. You know this girl was like, I'll MC the thing.
No, I didn't volunteer, but I was asked, and I did quickly say yes. But I didn't, like, volunteer for the job. But my father was the auctioneer of my school's auction growing up. And so this is like, was he like taking his place.
Get out.
Yes, I think he was. And really? I'm going to try to do that.
What kind of auction was it? Like crowns?
What?
Crayons. What are you auctioning off at like a kid's school?
The fuck? The kids aren't spending money. The kids have no money. Why do you think the kids are at the auction?
Listen.
Crowns?
Crayons. I said crowns. Tamagotchi.
No, it's like a school fundraiser of like actual stuff. There's
I don't know shit about schools.
It's like free gym memberships, free stays at hotels, Eagles tickets, Phillies tickets.
Can I come to the auction if I don't have a child?
Of course, anyone could come. Do you want to come?
Maybe. When is it?
Next Friday.
No.
Well, okay. We'll continue back to the episode then.
That was quick. Quick no. I don't even know what I'm doing next Friday. But like then I pictured myself driving to Westchester, like being with a bunch of people.
That's why I was like, do you want to?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I second guessed myself.
This is like when you think you're invited to my child's stuff. And I'm like, I don't invite you for a reason. It's called being a friend.
Yeah, that's nice, actually.
Because I love you, I don't invite you.
That's really nice. My friend just texted me, and she was like, hey, I just want to let you know, my daughter's first birthday is coming up, and it's at like a play place. And so like, I'm not inviting anyone who doesn't have kids. You're welcome. And I was like, thank you so much. I
respect the shit out of it.
No, that's really nice.
Yeah.
Because it lets you know, listen, I would have, it's not that I'm not inviting, I'm not inviting you for your own good. I've thought about this.
Yeah. You're welcome.
My niece had this like party at this play place.
Hell.
And there was like an Elmo there who looked like it was cracked out.
Yeah, because they're buying off-brand. They're not paying the trademark on that Elmo.
So I was there.
What do you mean it's Philly Elmo?
It was in New York. It was in New York.
I know, but you know what I'm talking about. Yeah. Philly Elmo who's at every event.
Yeah, scary. But
Disagree. Sexy.
Not going to yuck your yum.
Thank you.
You're welcome. But yeah, it was the worst experience of my entire life. That's all I had to say.
Hell. With neurovirus. That's what a children's play place is.
Yeah, horrible.
So why would I ever invite you? You're welcome.
So nice of you.
Wait, this is my favorite question. When we went through these notes, all I wrote was LOL because I thought this was funny. My partner and I are both conflict avoidant. How do I get him to be the assertive one instead of me?
LOL's funny. You can't.
What the fuck?
It would be so nice if you could.
You're so conflict avoidant that you are.
That you're like, I need my partner to do it. I don't want to do this. Listen.
Here's what we're going to remind you. It takes two people to set a dynamic, but only one person to change it. Doesn't matter who. But if you were taking the time to write into a podcast, it should be you. It is time. Because clearly you want it to be different. So here's the reality. My husband and I leave a bunch of dishes out. The dishes drive me crazy. They don't drive him crazy. Whose job? And now I have a choice. I can just do the fucking dishes and shut up and then be happy with the clean kitchen. Or I can sit there and hope and pray that he eventually does them. While I do that, I'm getting resentful. I'm getting annoyed. I'm getting turned off. Okay? None of that's good for my relationship. The person who cares more is probably going to have to act more. And you can be annoyed by that, sure. Or you can just decide to take control and not be a victim. People are not going to like that I said that.
But it's important to hear it.
Also, LOL.
LOL.
I thought that was a really good
dynamic. That. And listen, like that would be great if we could just get other people to do things.
Yeah, it's like my fucking dream. What do you mean?
Like it would be incredible.
And I don't have to say it either.
Right. And it just happens
to be different.
And I think so often people are like, we've been together for so long. You should know. No, that doesn't happen.
It would be cool though.
Wouldn't that be cool? But people think that all the time, that like, oh, we've been together for so long, so like you should know this. You should read my mind.
I'm going to be honest though, I do have a thing in the kitchen with my husband about this. That's like, we have two different ideas of what cleaning the kitchen is. His is doing the dishes. Mine is doing the dishes and putting everything away that's on the countertop and then scrubbing the countertops.
Wow.
He never scrubs the countertops or puts everything away. But as long as there's nothing in the in the sink, then it counts.
Has he ever cleaned the countertops?
No, it's not a thing he does.
If he ever...
I don't even think he thinks... It's not even on his radar.
It doesn't even...
No point thinks this through. Where I'm like, where about that one crumb in that one corner? We got to scrub that bitch.
Right, because he might get a little ant.
See, your husband loves to clean, and that is a lucky thing.
You guys would really get along with the cleaning situation. He loves scrubbing the counters. But
me and Bill would...
kill each other in every other way.
I was going to say, we would be able to have a lovely home together, but the relationship would be so toxic.
It's horrible. It's so bad.
But it would be so clean and tidy. So clean. And we would not fight over that.
It would really help, I think, that you guys had such a clean home.
That would be the only thing that we murdered each other in.
Because
it would be not clean when we have
because I will try to clean the counters. And this is another thing that happens in relationships. And You're
probably doing it wrong.
Exactly. It's not up to his standards. So that's why I asked if Aaron has ever tried, and you've told him that. And so I don't
think he notices.
Yeah, in my mind, I'm like, I'm not going to do this because it won't be up to like his standards, which is fine. It's just he has to take responsibility for it. You can't expect.
If I was married to Bill, we'd have the world's cleanest countertops.
But you can't expect someone else to take something on when you care so much about it.
Yeah. Okay, how to have a hard conversation that's productive and not just crying and walking away.
Okay. So
this is you.
Not anymore. Definitely used to be me.
Yeah.
But I think one of the things is, first of all, get comfortable with your crying, right? Like I think so often if you're someone who goes into tears, it feels like, well, now I can't have the conversation. Where you don't have to shut down when you start crying. And you can explain like, listen, my tears are coming up because this is important for me. So you can also prepare, like think about, what do I want to say? How do I want to bring it up? And in the moment, if you start crying, instead of shutting down, say, okay, give me just a few minutes so I can like re-engage with the conversation. That you don't, sometimes if you're someone who, you know, tends to cry immediately when you start talking about your feelings, it feels like I got to get all of this out before I start crying. But no, you can cry in the middle of it.
So then you're like
it's pressured and you're not really thinking about it and you're anxious about it. You're like, I have to get all of this out so that I don't cry. And you're not taking the time to really think about like, how do I want to express myself? So this is, just going to say it to you if you're someone who wrote this in or this happens to you, is like, you don't have to get it out before you cry. Like you can cry in the middle and just say like, I'm crying because like, this is hard for me. And I just want to tell you how I feel. And people who tend to be conflict avoidant, this happens so often. There's a fear of, if I bring this up, I'm going to start crying. Let yourself cry in it. It's okay. It's totally okay to start crying. I wonder how the other person might react to you crying. And your response to them can be like, listen, I'm okay. Like, it's okay. I cry when I start talking about these things because it's important to me and I've been holding this in. And so that's what I want to say, is just get comfortable with your tears. And the more comfortable you are with your tears, the more you're going to be able to express yourself during, and give yourself a little bit of space if you feel overwhelmed, instead of shutting down, to be like, okay, I just need a few minutes and then I want to like get back to the conversation, or I need a minute to think about this. You don't have to get it all out before you start crying.
Yeah. Dear Em and Jen.
Wow.
I know.
Time flies.
Dear Em and Jen, I just want to say how much I love your show. Thank you.
Thank you.
It's been so helpful as a supplement to therapy. Yes, a supplement. We are not a replacement. Oh, God, I love that word. So thank you. My question is, I have a friend I've known since high school, and I love her, but I'm starting to feel like our friendship is completely one-sided. She constantly comes to me for advice, emotional support, and reassurance, but when I need anything, she's nowhere to be found. I've tried to bring it up in a gentle way, but she either brushes it off or somehow makes me feel guilty for even asking. I don't want to just cut her off, but I also don't know how to keep pouring into a friendship that drains me. And sometimes I question if I did something wrong. Would love your take.
It sounds like the person who wrote this in, their attempt to balance their relationship is to try to get out of the other person what you're giving. To ask for things, right? So like that's the attempt, is to balance it in some way on that end. So my question is there another way to balance it? Meaning, you set a boundary with the friend to say,
be there for them less.
Or set the boundary, hey, I'm not in the space right now to talk about this. Listen, your friendships, your relationships aren't always going to be 50-50. But if you feel like you are giving so much more than you're getting, and your attempt to balance it is to get more from the other person, it might be that you just have to set more boundaries with that person.
Yeah. I like that idea, right? That like, you know, because this person say, well, did I do something wrong? No, it's just that the thing you're trying to do just isn't working. So you don't want to keep doing the same thing over and over again. If someone can't hear you, or they can't take a direct boundary setting, right? So I really like what you're saying, is that like there's another way to do this. And if it feels imbalanced and you're not getting enough, stop giving as much. And I know that sounds harsh, and then you're like, oh, but that makes me such a dick, and then I'm not a good friend, and then I'm not the type of friend I want to be. It's not always about that. Sometimes it's just about like, wow, I truly do not have the bandwidth for this. And the days that you do, that's great. You can give it then. But if you're thinking about it in terms of like tit for tat or like keeping score, this relationship is never going to be even.
It makes me think of one of my favorite quotes, which is, stop expecting you from other people.
I love when a millennial quotes a quote.
Millennial quotes a quote. Stop expecting you from other people. Because I think that often happens is like, okay, I can give this much. Why can't they give that back to me? Why aren't they thinking about this in the same way? The fact of the matter is they're not going to. They're not you.
And do you have other people in your life you can go to? Here's the other person. Here's the other thing. If this person has showed you time and time again that they're not able to be there for you, why do you keep going to them?
Yeah.
Because you think they should? That's lovely. That's a nice thought. Agreed. It's not happening. So who can you go to instead? I know there are certain people in my life that I can love, but I'm probably not going to call them in an emergency. I'm going to call Jen 50 times and annoy her.
I'm going to love it.
Thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode of Shrink Chicks.
We'll see you back here next week for another session.
In the meantime, if you want a question answered or a topic discussed, follow us on Instagram at ShrinkChicks. And if you're looking to get connected with a therapist like us to start or continue your therapeutic journey, visit thetherapygroup.com. Just fill out a contact form on our website, and we will personally match you with one of our amazing therapists. And for all of our therapists and group practice owners out there, we also offer group practice consulting.
And if you're looking to support yourself further and support our show, check out our amazing merch options at shrinkchicks.com/merch and our Know Yourself, Grow Yourself journal on Amazon. Also, if you'd be so kind, we'd love a rating, review, and for you to share with a friend or an enemy or a mother-in-law, honestly, whoever needs it, so that we can keep reaching more people on our mission to bring mental health topics to your ears every week.
Thanks for being here with us, and don't forget to grow yourself. You got to know yourself.